And welcome back to the Big Red with B. Schneid Show. We got a special guest on today, EJ, joining us. So we'd like to thank him for coming on. And be sure to give this show a like, comment, subscribe, and share us your questions because EJ wants to answer them. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on, Bob. Appreciate it.
Jim, what'd you think of the Super Bowl?
Actually, this was more akin to the classic Super Bowls, which are not really that good of a game. So more like it. Well, I mean, we've been spoiled in the last 4 or 5 years on good Super Bowls rather than just blowouts.
Well, a homer from the Chiefs would say that, but
Oh, from the Chiefs. Yeah, I guess so.
I will say Jim has liked the Chiefs ever since I've known him.
All we
So
got on the freaking radio, dude. You got AM radio in the tractor. You got the Chiefs and you got the Royals.
Christian Okoye was your glory years.
Yeah, the Nigerian nightmare. Does anybody know what university he played from?
I don't.
I do
They
not.
shut the football program down the year he graduated.
Was it Wichita State?
University of Pacific.
Oh, okay. EJ, give us your thoughts on the Super Bowl.
Yeah, what a catastrophe from the Chiefs. That was not good whatsoever. I mean, I haven't seen this bad of a Super Bowl since Broncos Seahawks in 2000. What was that? 13. It was just
Yeah.
ugly from the start. Chiefs had no control. I mean, the Eagles' front line, defense and offense, was just dominant.
Now,
They
guys,
brought
you got a
forward the whole game.
Cam Jurgens. You want to talk about a guy that is relatively young and looks like a pro center. This guy played well,
Well,
and
and
he's a Nebraska native.
yeah, and he went to high school in Beatrice, but a fact I found out about Jurgens, he's actually from just a little bit north of Beatrice, Pickrell, Nebraska. And the population I was checking before we recorded, 186. Pretty cool, I
Wow.
thought.
Yeah, and don't you think there's a little connection? Don't you think Bus Boom's from right in that neighborhood too?
Portland.
Yeah,
So small town Nebraskan people are making it big. But it was cool to see Cam Jurgens get the Super Bowl ring, and then you also had Nick Gates on the roster, who played under your favorite coach Mike Riley, Jim, and then also O'Shawn Mathis, who came to Nebraska for a year, and we gave him a what was it, a brand new Jeep, I believe, and that
probably.
and I mean he didn't perform as high as what everybody was expecting. But congratulations to the Eagles. I do want to watching the news today. I mean, all I'm seeing is clips from last night in Philadelphia. Their fan base just destroying their town. It reminded me of Kenosha, Wisconsin, back when that whole ordeal happened in 2020.
Yeah, I think your
Not to get
idol,
political, but
no, and Taylor got booed, so that probably tore you up pretty bad.
yeah, I just as big of a Taylor Swift fan as I am, even
You
though
are a
I have a Led
Swifty,
Zeppelin poster in my background. Yeah,
but
big
you're a
Taylor
Swifty.
Swift fan.
You're a
Yeah,
Swifty.
yep, definitely. With all that
EJ's
makeup she
probably a Swifty
wears.
too.
Big time.
I will
There you go.
say when
Big
EJ and
time.
I are having a beer and they play the "You Belong with Me," isn't that what it's called? It's a good vibe.
Absolutely.
Have a couple of those and listen to that.
I bet a couple 12 packs of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Bush Light's getting a free sponsorship out of my 100 and
Uh,
viewers average I get. So,
Anyway,
um, now closing out on the Super Bowl, I want to know early predictions for next year's Super Bowl for both of you. I have the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions.
I
EJ's
think
up.
Eagles are back. I think Eagles are back. I don't think they lose a lot next year. They have a lot of young pieces. Obviously, you're going to get Barkley back. You're going to get a lot of that offensive line back. So I'll go Eagles, NFC, and then AFC. I would like to see Bills in there. Um, Obviously, I'm a big Josh Allen guy. I might be a Patriots fan, but that guy's a beast. I'd say Bills, but how can you count out the Chiefs ever? But I'll go Chiefs, Eagles, or excuse me, Eagles, Bills.
You boys ever seen Josh Allen play in person?
I did when I was quite young here in Nebraska. What year was that, Jim?
Came from Wyoming. Wyoming came in. It's amazing that how that guy could throw the ball around. Probably, God, that had to be about uh,
What year? That was
98, 99.
what year are you referring to?
When Josh Allen came, 19 or 2019.
You said 98 at first.
I know. I
It
can't.
was,
Short a decade. Come on, give me a break.
I believe it was 2016.
I know Nate Gary was here.
Yeah, Nate
He
Gary,
picked him off.
and then handed him the ball, and Josh Allen threw it back in his face. Um, but
Josh Allen's a big boy.
I thought the high he is a big boy. Before we do stop on talking about the Chiefs Eagles Super Bowl, can you believe how piss poor their offensive line played? And don't get me wrong, I think Andy Reid is the second greatest professional coach of all time, arguably. You could maybe say Jimmy Johnson up there with the Cowboys, but the lack of offensive line play they had was atrocious. They had one first down in the first half. I was hearing watching sports show this morning. They were talking how the Eagles had more sacks than the Chiefs had first downs.
Yeah, Bobby, it was a mess. Eagles dominated time possession 37 minutes. They had 345 total yards on offense, but like you were saying, the Chiefs O-line was a disaster. The Eagles didn't blitz whatsoever. They brought four every single time. They brought Josh Sweat, Milton Williams. They disrupt the rhythm early. Mahomes was pressured 53% of his dropbacks, and that's without the Eagles even blitzing. And that's not even the highest percentage in Mahomes' career. It was 4 years ago against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Super Bowl 55. So we've seen this recipe before for success in past Super Bowls. But if you're the Chiefs, you gotta kind of be worried about your tackles in the future. That's definitely something you need to prove upon because if they're bringing four for the whole game and you can't stop it, that's bad news. And we saw it last night.
Doesn't this game remind you guys of uh, when Tom Brady faced the Giants and they set his ass on the ground a
Mm-hmm.
lot, early and often? That's what this game reminds me of.
Thanks for reminding two Patriots fans,
Yeah,
Jim.
But it really was. It
Yeah,
it
was
I
is.
know what you mean. You're,
because Tom Brady had no time. Mahomes had no time. It was a disaster from the front to the end. Exactly what last night was.
And there was no run game whatsoever from the Chiefs. Obviously, they got down pretty early, but Kareem Hunt had 3 rushes for 9 yards. They ran the ball a total of 7 times. Obviously, the score got a little out of control, but Kenny Pickett, the Eagles' backup, has as many rush attempts as Kareem Hunt did, and Mahomes was the leading rusher. So it was just a mess. I feel like Chiefs could have had some sort of run game early on. Didn't work. Uh, yeah, what a mess. Not a great Super Bowl.
yeah, no, I till next year.
Got away
Hopefully,
from him.
I was hoping for a Hail Mary to end the game. I thought
Yeah.
that'd have been sweet. Why not? Because the two teams I wanted. Oh, is Brian alive today? By the way, he didn't seem too happy when he was texting me last night.
Uh, I told I called him yesterday morning. He's Bobby's talking about his uncle. I called him yesterday morning, talked about how to place a bet and what we were going to do because I was headed to the casino yesterday at about 10, and I did. And how much money I should bet and who I should bet on. He recommended to take the straight the take Kansas City. Definitely gonna win it. So I told him this morning I bet 5 grand. So he's been kind of lurking and sneaking, not wanting to talk a lot. Didn't answer the phone.
You
So
didn't bet 5 grand.
no, I didn't. But
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's transition to Nebraska basketball. Nebraska's on a 4 game winning streak after losing six straight. The optimism in Lincoln is high. They are projected now to be in the NCAA tournament again. And I was looking at the numbers in Nebraska's 4-game winning streak. Bryce Williams is averaging 25 and a half points per game. Looks like the formula is have Jawan Gary perform well and Bryce Williams, and Nebraska is a tough out. But I mean, even on Sunday, he played 39 minutes of the 40. But now Burke Buchengel rolled his ankle at the end of the game, who's been playing really well in the post, getting boards, and then he has a stretch ability to hit a three from time to time. So that's going to be a tough loss if they're not going to be able to get him back because it looks like at least a high ankle sprain. I'm not for sure. Nothing's been confirmed yet. But they will host Maryland, who is ranked 25th in the latest AP poll that came out today on Thursday at 7:30. So what are your guys' thoughts on Nebraska basketball and what do they got to do?
Well, Hoiberg's Fred. Fred does a pretty good job of coaching. Kind of a giant killer, but some of the early the ones games he should win kind of gags it. I don't understand if he's not getting them ready or what.
EJ, what have you been thinking?
These last four games have been. It's just nice when you have a balanced attack on offense. Does it seem like Bryce has to do too much? Also, it's really hard to beat. I feel like it's hard to beat us when we hold teams to 65 to 70 points a game. Our team is not meant to win games where we score 80, 85. We saw it a few times. Obviously, we beat Illinois. I think we scored high 80s. Obviously, that went in the overtime. But when we try to outscore these teams with better, I'd say, scores, uh, athletes like we see against Rutgers and USC, it's just not a good recipe for us. We have to hold these teams to low numbers to win a lot of these games, which we've been doing the past four.
Yeah, and I think you see that with the lineup that Fred's been putting out there. He's been putting his boy out there. Yeah, he's 5'10" and not gonna out go in the lane and dunk it on somebody, but you're seeing Sam Hoiberg out there getting steals. You're having Bryce still, he's running the point guard, and he's one of your tallest players at 6'7". You're having that forward bring the ball up, and then you have Buchengel, which that's why I think it's going to be significant to get him back, hopefully, as soon as possible. And then Jawan's gone from a solid player to I'd say arguably he's on the verge of being a great player because his ability, he's decided I might try to shoot a three from time to time, but every time I get the ball, I'm trying to take it to the hoop with my size and strength. And I think that's been huge. Raleigh Wooster, he's at times flashy, and I think that he's kind of coming into what he needed to be at Nebraska. And then some of your bench guys, Connor Sejan, I think is great, but he needs to be more consistent because he'll get streaky from time to time, but then he'll have the game where he might hit only 1 3 when that's his whole job of being out there is to knock down three or four.
Well, I think your word you just used describes Nebraska basketball about as good as you can this year, and that is streaky. So if
Right,
they're
I
on, they're on.
agree. Yeah, I mean, we saw we went on a 6 game losing streak and now we win four. It's this time of year though when these games they're going to count. Obviously, they count the same the whole year, but it's about getting hot at the right time. And obviously, we want to get Berkey back. He had 15 last game. Looks like he's starting to put it together. So that'll be big to get him back.
And Maryland, so they lost to Ohio State last Thursday on the 6th, and then they defeated Rutgers 90 to 81 on Sunday. They got right now analytically Maryland at a 54.5% chance of winning, obviously, because they know the exact percentages. But anyway, I think I want to get a quick prediction for today since we won't be recording until the game. I got uh,
Speaking of
you know,
Homer,
I'm not. No, I'm not being a homer pick here. Unfortunately, I don't think Burke is going to play. So I got Maryland 73, Nebraska 70 at home, and a tough loss.
I don't know what kind of lineup Hoiberg's going to throw out there. I know Maryland, they're pretty athletic, pretty strong. Last time I played them, they have some pretty good guard play. But I'm going to say Maryland wins this game here. I'll say 74-65.
I'll go Maryland by 6.
All right. Well, I guess nobody's being a homer today.
Yeah. A bunch of realists here.
Exactly. All right, guys. Nebraska softball this weekend. They played. They started out 3-0, defeated number 6 Tennessee to open up the season. Jordy Ball pitched a complete game, hit a home run. Then they win their next two on the doubleheader on Friday. Then Saturday, they lose a heartbreaker to Texas Tech. And then yesterday, they laid another egg to number 25 Mississippi State. Um, Kind of what people were expecting for Nebraska softball rolling in on their Florida season opener, but disappointing way to end after that hot start.
Well, those teams, the Southern teams. I mean, good Lord, they're 2 months ahead of Nebraska. So you're not going to on baseball and softball. So you know, we're throwing snowballs still. So
Yeah, it's a long season. Obviously, you play what, 5 games in 4 days or so. So hopefully they bounce back, which I think they will. A lot of veteran pieces there.
Yeah, I think they got a team that I think very well could make a run at the Women's College World Series. Friday they'll play a doubleheader, Texas A&M Corpus Christi and New Mexico State. You'd expect them both to win. They're playing those in New Mexico, and then Saturday they play Montana, and then on they play Montana and Northern Colorado, and then Sunday they finish off with Montana. But I think that they very well could go 5-0, and if not, I'd say it'd be kind of a disappointment.
I agree.
And then the baseball team, they will open up the season on Friday against UC Irvine in the afternoon. And then Saturday they'll play Vanderbilt. And then Sunday they play San Diego State. And I believe that then on that Monday they play Grand Canyon. They're playing down in Scottsdale. Um, the tough one's going to obviously be Vanderbilt, ranked in the top 25. But Nebraska baseball, I think if they can at least win three of those four, be sitting good to start out the season.
You going to cover them this year?
Yeah, and I'll be attending Will Bolt's press conference tomorrow and see what he has to say. So, yeah,
That'll be interesting.
The optimism for Nebraska baseball is pretty high this year after coming off a Big Ten tournament, and it's in to be brutally honest, it's pathetic that they haven't made the College World Series that's in Omaha for 20 years.
It's gonna be big expectations this year, like you were saying. I mean, Nebraska fans, we already expect the world, but when you win 40 games last year, you're returning a lot of key players. I mean, huge expectations going into the season. I think they will win another 40. Um, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Kale Frost was saying the South Dakota State transfer at the start of the year, the biggest thing is they need to host a regional in Lincoln. That's the easiest path to get to Omaha. Pretty obvious there. I mean, you have your home fan base there
Mhm.
and you're playing in your park. And that's such a big thing in baseball. When you play in that park so many times and then you're playing there again, you know where the ball kind of glides or bounces off the wall because every ballpark's pretty unique. More so in the major leagues, but you see it at all baseball levels. But anyway, want to touch on those. And then I wanted to ask you guys. So Nebraska's transfer portal is wrapped up. Jim, you and I were talking about Rocco Spindler last week coming in, what that could mean. But I want to know who you guys think of these transfers really makes a big impact.
I got a question for you, okay? Before we go into that, and that is, um, what's the story behind the Alabama guy? He kind of
Okay.
had got a few rocks on the road, or what?
Yeah, I mean, from my understanding, he has some off the field issues. He got into trouble, and it's not necessarily wasn't it's a pretty embarrassing story for the guy, and that's why I won't talk about it.
Okay,
But he got into some trouble knowingly doing something that probably should have taken more precaution, I guess is the correct way of using the word.
okay,
And I think that off the field, he came in as a five-star recruit, and you look, the guy's 6'6", 330, and he has the size and everything, but I think up here, and you see that a lot with these college athletes nowadays. A little bit, some mental issues. So that's the thing, though. Can Donovan Raiola take Elijah Pritchett and can he transform him into a great player on the field and not let his off the field things happen? Because he has all the tools. And I was thinking about it. You look at Nebraska football and Nebraska volleyball, the two greatest coaches are arguably some of the greatest coaches to ever coach sports at the collegiate level. John Cook and Tom Osborne found a way with problems off the field.
Yeah, yeah. John Cook was, and Tom Osborne was great at it. And even if you want to pick on him about Lawrence Phillips, that deal, but John Cook dealt with some off the field issues too, and that's why Harper Murray has a soft spot in John's heart because he got to deal with some issues with somebody very close to him when she came back. And, you know, these are kids. Sorry, I speak from 65 years old. These are kids with a lot of things going on, and we all make mistakes and this and that. And John and Tom both very reverent in how they dealt with them. And everybody deserves a second chance or two. So, and most of them are successes rather than failures.
That's right,
So,
Jim. We're not perfect. Young kids, old people, older adults, everyone makes mistakes. But I think my biggest portal addition is Rocco Spindler coming on a national championship roster on a team. No sack committed last year. I think he had one penalty in over 600 snaps. He's a big, big guy on the team. We need winners. I think it starts there. And I also like Elijah Pritchett. Obviously struggled last year with pass blocking. I think he let up uh, one of the largest amount of pressure percentages in college football. But 6'6", 300 pounds. And it'd be nice to have another tackle. So hopefully we can develop those guys, get them a little bit better.
so
See,
I'm taking Pritchard. You're taking Rocco.
see,
I love
I'm
both of them.
Jim and I both are kind of a homer for Gunnar Gatula. I really think I feel comfortable with Gunnar Gatula playing one of the tackles next year. I'm not saying you don't want to have depth, but I saw a lot out of a redshirt freshman playing in the Big Ten
I
this
mean, the
past
guy went
season.
out there and played without any pants on. I mean, he was naked. He was a freshman, and he played in front of a crowd. And by God, he did good.
Yeah, for a college football virgin, I thought he got in the action pretty well.
Did he screw up? Absolutely. But situation perfect. Yes.
I
I
better
thought
not
Gunner
use it.
stepped up big, especially early in the season to fill in that role.
Yep.
See, my thing with the offensive line is, and people have talked about this, they want in the offensive line. I think that these two portal ads are huge. But where I differ from a lot of people is that they have all these highly recruited guys that have been in the program for a year or two, and I'd rather see them get a shot. But if Donovan Raiola's doing his job, they should be ready to go, is my thing. If the strength
Mhm.
and conditioning is working for the up front, you see it on the defensive line.
Well, then can we agree?
Riley Van Poppel, Keona Davis as a true freshman coming in. Now, yeah, did they have to add some weight? Now they're not saying they're going to be Ty Robinson next year, but I feel comfortable with that. And that's why my best portal ad is Williams and Ware. And
All
the
right,
re
then. All right.
and
Ask you guys then. Have you? Can you remember? Um, in the past 4 years, have we had this kind of depth at the offensive line to start the season with without injuries?
Absolutely not, because you look at what they've added with the talent and then
There you go.
the other stuff. I, it's incredible, I think, with the depth they have. You got guys, Sam Sledge, that haven't played yet that are supposed to be up here, Grant Bricks. So you just go along the line. Majacek, or gosh, I just botched his name, but real fans will know who I'm talking about.
And Bryce is gone, your buddy.
Yep, yeah, yeah. Bryce is gone. I don't know if he'll get drafted. He'll get signed.
That latest executive order, I don't think he will. Can't play in girls' sports. Anyway,
But and then the Son McCullough is another one that I'm really excited about. Rule was talking about how you can play in a 3-3-5, 3-4, and 4-3. And you're taking a risk on all these guys, don't get me wrong. But my biggest one thing I'm not jumping the gun on. Now I think Dane Key is gonna be a stud for Nebraska, but you saw last year. Now I know the coaching's different. You got Nikhil Schwartz coaching receivers, and you got Dana Holgerson at the helm. but they cannot have another Jamal Banks and Isaiah Nayer transfer receiver type of season. No,
Very disappointing.
Dane Key needs to be. I'm not saying he needs to be Trey Palmer, but he needs to have 800 plus receiving yards. If you're making this money coming to Nebraska, you've done it at Kentucky and the SEC, blah blah blah. You need to be doing that in the Big Ten. You're 6'3", 200 plus pounds. Should be able to go out there and stock block. And I think that Dane Key could be the most impactful transfer, but I think Williams and Wari is the best transfer addition just because of his ceiling.
Now, didn't they transfer somebody else in to complement Sierra?
Yes, Andrew Marshall, and that's
That I'm hoping for some big things there because if that's true, then that's a pretty good secondary.
for the black shirts. EJ, who are you excited mostly about to watch? That's transferring
That's
in.
transferring. I would say Desan. Hope I'm not butchering that. I think it's Desan
No.
McCall. Who
Yep.
was it last name?
McCullough, Deshaun
McCullough.
McCullough.
Yeah, I didn't want to mispronounce, but yeah, obviously third school in 4 years, I believe so. He was at
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Indiana, and now us. Athletic, seems very versatile on defense. Seems like he can play multitude of positions out there. I do like Son.
Yeah, no, there's some of these guys on this roster that transferred in that no, they're not going to be impact players when you bring in 16 transfers. But if you can hit on about 7 or 8 of them, that'd be huge. And I'm also excited about Kevin Galick, the long snapper. I
That's a
hope
huge deal.
I hope that
Huge.
I hope that no Nebraska media member knows his name and speaks of him during the season.
If he's average, if he's average, a long snapper, Nebraska wins 3 more games last year.
Well, my thing is with the whole thing, Nebraska's issues last year. You got to start with the special teams. That's blatantly obvious. Your pass coverage, and then on offense, you can pretty much put everything together. Not having the right guys in the field, and then you couldn't run the ball consistently, and then quarterback regression. Now, hopefully, Dylan last night was watching his buddy Mahomes, and even though he was getting the shit kicked out of him, hopefully that he watched Mahomes running outside the pocket, running for his life and improvising. That's if Dylan can do that this season, maybe cut a little bit of weight. Not saying he has to, if he can just move around and get the ball out. I think that you will see that's where Dylan Raiola will go from a solid college quarterback to a good college quarterback, and then he can maybe keep working from there.
Bobby, I'm glad you brought that up. I think last year you saw Dylan. He made a lot of improvisation skills while he was running out of the pocket. I don't want him to get over. Like I want him to stay in the pocket a few times, take some hits. I don't want Raiola scrambling all the time out of the pocket. I feel like he did that sometimes last year, a little too many times. I thought UCLA was one of them. Right when he would step out, linebackers kind of read his eyes, and then, well, once at the end pushes your tackle out of the way. I thought that game he got a little too overzealous. I think Ohio State he could kind of get away with it because they're like Raiola, this guy's not going to run. Well, Raiola did, so I think UCLA kind of saw that, and I think Raiola got a little too overzealous. But I do want him to make big plays next year, obviously. But I also want him to see him take some hits in the pocket, get a little more comfortable getting hit.
That is a good way to put it, getting comfortable getting hit. I do like you mentioning that because
Yeah, and that's a big deal. And not do the hook slide a yard short.
Yeah.
no, you're absolutely right. But well, guys, any last remarks you guys want to close out on?
I got one.
What's that?
You realize that song behind you was the theme song to my prom, my
Stairway
high
to
school
Heaven.
prom? Yes. That's how old that thing is. That's not biblical, Bobby, and just in case you wanted to know. That's not a biblical song.
Oh, wow, that really just hit me.
Yeah. Okay.
No, exciting time for everybody. I got out. It's about that time of year where start fishing, catching some out fishing everybody I go with. Pretty good at that.
Oh, I don't know. Length matters.
Yeah. Oh, what do you mean? You catch one 26-inch walleye and you think you're a
Yeah,
fishing
but length
god.
matters, buddy.
Yeah. But EJ, thank you so much for coming on. And if you enjoyed it, we'll have you on soon again.
Bobby, thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Deal.
We'll have
All
to do it
right.
again.
So be sure again once again, be sure to give this video a
Hey,
like, share it, subscribe.
hey, one thing, kind of an interesting deal to where Nebraska has a football game, a big football game in Kansas City playing Cincinnati, and it looks like the volleyball team is going to be playing a doggone tournament with Pitt, Kentucky, and Tennessee in Nashville. That's a big deal, kind of a conflict.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to be at Arrowhead, whether I'm
Being
up in the
here.
press box or in the stands. But I think the Nashville thing would be it's sweet that they're doing that. I think they're setting it up so Nebraska fans can do both.
Kind of a big deal, guys.
I was going
Yeah,
to stand with
no,
Taylor.
the athletic department is, I mean, Nebraska athletics is for the fan base is really growing even more, especially in this NIL era with all the events they have to open up the seasons. I mean, normally Nebraska opens up either at Minnesota or against UTEP, and yeah, you can go to the game, but now you're going to Arrowhead. So
Right.
Well, it's a big opening weekend for Nebraska sports. Come,
absolutely.
Yeah.
come
And
the end of
technically, it's a
August.
away game, and there's going to be 80% Nebraska fans there. So we get an extra home game pretty much. So that'll be nice, especially to
The
kick off the season.
the tailgate will probably be pretty wild down there.
We'll be there.
It'll be fun.
Anyway, thank you all for listening. And Jim,
Got no more.
Jim was
Go
supposed to.
big, Red.
There you go.
Yeah.